الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters, we're still speaking about the chapter that speaks about family rulings, and we reach to these ahadith here. How to, these are the conditions of marriage. How to do, because the marriage actually in Islam is a contract. So what are the rulings of the contract? What are the conditions? What are the exceptions? What are the forbidden things that you're not allowed to do? All these things are very important to know. It's not only a man meets a woman and that's it. No. Always Islam differentiates between what is legitimate and what is forbidden. So here he says, عن نافع عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عن الشغار، والشغار أن يزوج الرجل ابنته على أن يزوج الآخر ابنته وليس بينهما صداق، واتفقا من وجه آخر على أن تفسير الشغار من كلام نافع. Okay, so here here says narrated Nafi' from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited shigar, which means shigar comes from the word shagara. Shagara is something that is empty. Shagir, that means it's empty. Ghurfatun shagira, that means empty room. So the word shagara, these three letters, sheen, ghain, ra, give the meaning of empty. And Arabic is very beautiful and is very rich, and it has its laws. It has its laws and rules. So you can get three letters, and these three letters give you a meaning that however you go, you get the same meaning or a similar meaning or meaning that has to do with that. So here, Nafi' gives us the meaning of shigar. He says, which means that a man gives his daughter in marriage on condition that the other gives his daughter, to him in marriage in exchange, without any dowry being paid by either, agreed upon. And they both agreed that the explanation of the meaning of shigar is the saying of Nafi'. Okay, so therefore, this explanation is from the words of Nafi'. Nafi' is one of the great Imams of Medina, and he was the servant, a free servant of, or maybe he's not even free, he was a slave of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhuma. And in Islam, or in the beginning generations, they didn't used to have slaves just to serve them and humiliate them. No. They used to make them like their children, and they used to treat them like that. So Ibn Umar here, he took care of his servant Nafi' until he became a scholar, a great Imam of Medina. And that's why we find that Nafi' always narrates from Ibn Umar. And then he was the professor of Imam Malik, rahimahullah. You see, Nafi' was and we have two Nafi'. We have Nafi', the jurist, was this, and we have Nafi', the reciter of the Quran. He's not this one, he's another one. And both of them were in Medina. Okay, now this hadith gives us that it's prohibited in marriage to do this, what is called shigar. And okay, it's something like giving and taking. Take my daughter, I'll take your daughter, without any dowry between them. And this means that there's no dowry, and this is actually something wrong, not accepted at all. So therefore, this means that this type of marriage is haram. The majority of scholars say that it's nullified because the Prophet ﷺ here forbids it. He said, don't. He prevents us from doing it. He says there is no shigar in Islam. So this means that this type of marriage is not legitimate. The Hanafis say, well, look, the marriage is accepted. It's it's uh, it's not nullified, but who does this is a wrongdoer, and it's not supposed to be stay empty. You have to give a dowry that is presentable. He says, so what is the answer about this hadith? They say, well, when you give a dowry, it's not empty anymore. So therefore, this is a way to fix this type of marriage. Okay? Now, this hadith shows how Islam respects women because he insists that she has to have the dowry. And by the way, the dowry has to be for the woman. She's the one who takes the dowry, not the man. So the dowry is for the woman, not for, it's for the woman, not for her father or something like that. Okay? This is the case. عن الحسن عن سمرة رضي الله عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أي امرأة زوجها وليان فهي للأول منهما رواه أحمد والأربعة حسن الترمذي وصححه الحاكم. So narrated Hassan al-Hassan Hassan, this means Hassan al-Basri, the great tabi from Samura ibn Jundub, Sahabi. The Prophet ﷺ said, if two guardians have given a woman in marriage, she marries the man that was first married to. Reported by Ahmad and Al-Arba'a. Tirmidhi graded hadith as Hassan. Okay. So this means that if there is a woman that has two guardians, for example, she has two uncles, for example, her father passed away, and she gave the right to both of them to help her to get married. So the first one mentioned husbands, of specific husbands. The second one gave another name. She has to be for the first one, not the second one. And imagine that both of them went and made the contract. So the first contract is accepted, the second contract is nullified, okay? Because it was a contract which doesn't have any place, because a woman can't marry two men in one time, and there's no conflicts about this. Tirmidhi rahimahullah says that all scholars agree about this. We don't know any conflict between them about this. And if both of them sign it the same time, it's both of them are nullified. وعن جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أيما عبد تزوج بغير إذن مواليه أو أهله فهو عاهر. رواه أحمد وأبو داود والترمذي وصححه وكذلك ابن حبان بالحاكم. Okay, so it says here that narrated Jabir Abdullah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu said, any slave who marries without the permission of his masters or owners is like a fornicator. Fornicator. Actually, he used the word not fornicator. He used the word more harsher than that. He used the word like prostitute. Usually prostitute is for women, but he used it here for this guy, which means that he is doing something not accepted. Reported by Ahmad, Abu Dawood, Nasai, and Tirmidhi. The later graded it Sahih, authentic, as did Ibn Hibban. So this hadith means all scholars agree about this, that slave is not allowed to do anything without the permission of his master. And this is what scholars say. So this means that he is a wrongdoer if he does that, and because he is for his master. And actually, this ruling doesn't exist now, so we're not going to go so far about that. Shafi'i and Hanbalis say that the whole contract is nullified because he says he's a fornicator, and Hanafi and Maliki say no. If the master says okay, just let it go, it's considered as uh, uh, an accepted contract. And if he disagrees, it's nullified. That's it. Okay, sees that the Malikis and Hanafis are more, what they say is more accepted. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يجمع بين المرأة وعمتها ولا بين المرأة وخالتها متفق عليه. Okay, this hadith is very important. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a man must not join together in marriage to him a woman and her paternal aunt, or a woman and her maternal aunt, agreed upon. Okay, so this means that you're not allowed to marry a woman and her aunt, no matter she's a maternal or paternal aunt. Why? Well, because if you do that, you're going to cut their kinship. Does this mean that this is haram or it's not accepted? It's nullified. This means that this is nullified. It's haram. It's not only haram. It means that it's something that uh, all scholars agree that it's not accepted. It's said that some Shia say it's accepted, but that's wrong actually. Okay. So you're not allowed to do that. وعن عثمان رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينكح المحرم ولا ينكح وفي رواية له ولا يخطب زاد بن حبان ولا يخطب عليه. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه قال تزوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ميمونة ومحرم متفق عليه ولمسلم عن ميمونة نفسها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تزوجها وهو حلال. Okay, this hadith is a very important hadith. Now, one of the conditions of the marriage contract that it's not supposed to be in when somebody is in the post of ihram. Narrator Uthman radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger said, one who is in ihram may not marry or be given in marriage. That means she's not supposed to be muhrima. He's not supposed to be in ihram. Reported by Muslim. In another narration by him, it says he should not ask someone's hand in marriage. Ibn Hibban added, nor give someone in engagements to be married. So the one, okay, who was the nephew of Maymuna. That means his mother is her sister. He says the Prophet ﷺ married Maymuna when he was in the state of Ihram during pilgrimage. Agreed upon. Muslim reported from Maymuna anha, herself. She said about herself, the Prophet ﷺ married her when he was not in the state of Ihram. And we have other narrations that support that by uh, Abu Rafi, who was her servant or the servant of the her sister. Now the three Imams, Malik, Shafi, Ahmed, say that you're not allowed to marry when you are in the state of Ihram, and that this marriage is nullified, not valid, and he's not allowed to give marriage to somebody. So he's not allowed to be a guardian in marriage when he's in the post of Ihram. Okay? And they said that Maymuna, she says about herself that the Prophet, when he married her, and he married her in year number 8 in a village called Sarif, close to Mecca. And that was after Umrat al-Qada. Umrat al-Qada. So they said, what about what Ibn Abbas says? They say Ibn Abbas maybe made a mistake. Made a mistake. And Sa'id Musayyib says this. He says Ibn Abbas, she was his maternal aunt. And he didn't pay attention. He was actually, when Ibn Abbas in that era was 13, 14 years old. Don't imagine that he was a great or an old man. He was 13 or 14 years old. Maybe 13. Because the Prophet ﷺ passed away when Ibn Abbas, maybe less than that. In number 8, he was maybe 11 years old. Ibn Abbas here was 11 years old. So therefore, the Hanafis said, no, this is valid, and there's no problem about that. And Ibn Abbas anhu, is a great imam. He can't say this just from his desires. So therefore, there is no matter to get married when you are in the state of Ihram, or marry someone when she is in Ihram. But they say that Maymun is his aunt, he's part of the family, but all what they say is not proper, it's not right, it's wrong. And the right is what the others say. The others say it's proved by the hadith and by Ubaidullah by Abu Rafi, who was a mature guy, who was the servant of Ibn Abbas's mother. Her name is what was her name again? al-Fadl bint al-Harith al-Hilaliya. She was a great woman. She was the wife of Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib radiallahu anhu, and she was a great woman. She converted to Islam early in Mecca with her children. And her servants, Ubaidullah ibn Rafi, or sorry, Abu Rafi, not his son. Abu Rafi, he was a great Muslim in Mecca when the Prophet was in Medina. So he participated in this. He used to serve them and help and do, and he wasn't only a servant. No, he was a knowledgeable person and he knows what he's doing. Okay? So therefore, this is the case. Now, are you allowed to ask the hand of someone when you are in the post of Ihram? No. But many scholars say, well, it's not haram, but it's makruh. It's not haram, but it's makruh. This is what the majority of scholars say. It's makruh. طيب. وعن عقبة بن عامر رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن أحق الشروط أن يوفى بما استحللتم به الفروج. Narrated Uqbah ibn Amir radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger said, the most worthy conditions to be fulfilled are those by which you make sexual intercourse lawful for yourselves in marriage, agreed upon. Okay? This means that the conditions in marriage are very important and that we have to fulfill the conditions because he says that these are the most conditions that you have to take care of. And the words are here so strong, okay? But some say, well, there's another hadith that conflicts with this hadith. What is this hadith? They say that the Prophet ﷺ says, ما كان بشرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل. Any condition that is not in Allah's book, it's invalid. And the other hadith by Abu Hurairah, ولا تسأل المرأة طلاق أختها. The woman is not allowed to ask uh, her to divorce her sister. So the Hanafis, Malikis, and Shafi'is said that if the woman in the contract says, "Will I ask that you don't travel with me in any other country? We get married in our country here and we stay here. Don't tell me after 2 years we'll actually have a job in I don't know what, or I'm going to go to the other country. I want to stay always near my family." So if they write it in the contract, is that valid? Is that right? Does he have to fulfill that? Or if she says, "Will I ask you that you're not allowed to marry any other woman except me?" So if he promises her and he writes it in the contract, I give you in the contract that I won't marry any other woman except you. Or she says, you're not allowed to get me out of my house. He's not, all these three say, he's not supposed to, he's not supposed to fulfill that condition. They say because these conditions are not in Quran, they are against the Quran. The Quran gives the right to marry more than one woman. The Quran says that you have to obey your husband's orders. So these conditions aren't in the Quran. Okay, what about this hadith? The hadith says it's the main thing that you have to fulfill. Well, the hadith means that you have to be kind with her, you have to give her her dowry, you have to pay the payments that you have to pay, and she's not allowed to go out the house without your orders. And if he has other wives, he has to give you your portion, and that's it. Now, the Hanbalis here are the most widest madhab in these conditions. Okay, pay attention to me. The widest madhab in fulfilling conditions is the Hanbali school, and especially after the writings of Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, is one of the pillars of the latest Hanbali school, and he improved the whole school with his great knowledge, and he's so respected in the Hanbali school. So therefore, what do the Hanbalis say? The Hanbalis say that any condition that benefits the woman, you are obliged to fulfill it. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that. Now the others, what do they say? They say anything is in the book, is not in the book, or not. But what are the conditions? The condition is something that is permissible, and I tell you, please, this permissible thing, I don't want you to do it. For example, what is the difference between, now I say you have to obey your father's orders, right? Okay. So when you tell me, well, any order that is not in the book, I'm not going to obey it. So I tell you, son, don't visit your friend so and so. I don't like him. You tell me it's not in the book. The book doesn't say you're not allowed to visit your friend. The book tells you to order your father, to obey your father's orders. The book tells you to obey your father's orders. That's it. So if something is halal, permissible, and he says, no, stop here, I don't want it to happen, you have to obey his orders. The same thing with the wife. If something is permissible, no problem about it. So the husband says, I don't like this. Please don't do it. So she has to obey his orders and not do it. She can't tell him whether it's permissible because he's not going to, if it's haram, even if he just stays silent, you're not allowed to do it. It's haram. If it's halal, if it's wajib, it's obligatory, you have to do it because even if he doesn't order you to do it, it's obligatory. Now, what is his domain in his house? What is the father or the husband's domain in the house that you have to obey? It's anything that is permissible, not haram, not wajib, and then he gives the order or he prevents. Here you have to obey. So the same thing goes for the conditions. Any condition that is not obligatory, not forbidden, and the wife wants to benefit for her. She wants to benefit from it, and she puts it in the contract. According to the Hanbalis, she has the right to do that. Okay, and that's not against the book. Okay, this is the idea. The idea is that if she says that it's not in the book, okay, no problem about that. And the other hadith that says any condition that is not in the book, it's it's nullified. It's nullified. That means anything that contracts in the book, anything is against the Quran, anything is against Islam. Of course, if it's against Islam, we don't listen to it. We don't pay attention to it. And this is what Imam Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, rahimahullah, in his commentary on this hadith, this is what he says. He agrees with the Hanbali school. Or else, now actually, and let me be honest with you guys. What the three schools say, Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki say, it makes that the man is actually tricking the wife. You come and she's happy and she's getting engaged with him. And she says, yeah, I have some conditions. And they write it, yeah, my daughter, write your conditions. She starts writing her conditions. Yeah, I don't want you, darling, to get married, to marry any other woman. Yeah, of course, I would never marry any other woman except you. And I want you, please, I want to stay always with my family's city. Yeah, of course, I'll never take you to any country. All of a sudden, when he possesses her, she becomes his wife. He does whatever he wants. She says, "What we didn't you agree about?" Well, the Hanafi and Shafi'i and Maliki doesn't say you're not. She's gonna curse all of those imams. She's not gonna pay attention to anything after that. So I agree with the Hanbalis here. I'm a Hanbali. In this particular here, I'm Hanbali actually. Okay. Here we're going to speak about um, timing the marriage, which is called nikah al-mut'ah. عن سلمة بن الأكوع رضي الله عنه قال رخص رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عام أوطاس في المتعة 3 أيام ثم نهى عنه. رواه أحمد ومسلم. وعن علي رضي الله عنه قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن المتعة عام خيبر. متفق عليه. وعنه رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن متعة النساء وعن أكل الحمر الأهلية يوم خيبر. خرجه السبعة إلا أبا داود. وعن ربيع بن سمرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إني كنت أذنت لكم في الاستمتاع من النساء وإن الله قد حرم ذلك إلى يوم القيامة فمن كان عنده منهن شيء فليخلي السبيل ولا تأخذوا إذا أتيتموهن شيئا. خرجه مسلم وأبو داود والنسائي وابن ماجه وأحمد وابن حبان. Okay. Narrated Salamat ibn Akwa radiallahu anhu in the year of Autas. Autas was the battle of conquering, it was conquering, or it was against the Hunayn. It's called Hunayn. It has two names, Hunayn, Autas. And it was between Mecca and Taif, where those Bedouin tribes rebelled against Muslims and didn't want to surrender after the conquer of Mecca. That was in the year 8, the 8th year of Hijrah. So the Prophet, when he conquered Mecca, he continued fighting, and then they conquered all those places, and they went to conquer Taif, but they couldn't because Taif is very high on the mountain, and it's like a, how do you call it? It's a big surrounded, and uh, they defended themselves. Okay. Muhammad. It's like a castle, like a castle. So here he says that the Prophet ﷺ permitted mut'a, temporary marriage. It comes from the word tamatta, that means he enjoyed himself. So you enjoy the woman for some time, and then just you leave her. Say okay, for 3 nights. Then he prohibited it afterwards, reported by Muslim. So they get married for 3 days with the woman, and they give them anything they want, and then they go. That's it. It was permissible. Narrated Ali radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu forbade mut'a, temporary marriage, in the year of Khaybar. The year of Khaybar was before Autas. It was in the year 7. So how come he say that that means he forbid it and then he permitted it again? Okay, we're going to see about it. We're going to speak about it. Narrated Ali radiallahu anhu, on the day of the Battle of Khaybar, the Prophet forbade the temporary marriage, mut'a, the woman, and eating the flesh of domestic donkeys. As-Saba accepted, Abu Dawood reported it. On Rabi' ibn Sabura radiallahu anhu, on the authority of his father, Allah's Messenger said, I had permitted to you the temporary marriage of women, but Allah has now prohibited you from that till the day of resurrection. So if anyone has any of those women in temporary marriage, he should let her go and don't take back anything of what you have given them. Reported by Muslim, Abu Dawud, and Nasa'i, Ibn Majah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiallahu anhu. Okay, fine. This type of marriage, these ahadith, by all these mean that you're not allowed to make a marriage that is temporary. For example, you tell the woman, I'm going to marry you until we travel from this country. If we travel, that's it. Assalamu alaikum, bye-bye. Are you allowed to do that? No, that's haram. So therefore, this type of marriage, which means it has a specific time, or it doesn't have any specific time, just has a time, which you can say, look, my sister in Islam, I'm going to marry you until I get rid of you. I don't want to get bored. Then when I get bored, okay, I'll tell you Salaam alaikum. She says, okay, no problem. When you get bored, just tell me. Or he tells her, I'm going to marry you until I go out of this country. I don't know when I'm going to go out of this country. But when I decide to go out of this country, I'll just leave you and go. That's the end of our marriage. Is this haram? No, of course it's haram. It's not even accepted. So therefore, this type of marriage is not accepted at all. Um, and this type of marriage, it was permissible in the beginning of Islam. And it was by, it was a specific, it was when they specify a time and they give a dowry. Of course, they give a dowry and all these. It's a normal marriage actually. You give dowry, you give everything, but you're not supposed to pay pay her extra payments, pay her and give her a house and stuff like that because that's it. You just know her. It's not it's not a fixed marriage, and there is no inheritance between you. You don't inherit her, and she doesn't inherit you. And when you finish the marriage, she just waits for one cycle of her menstruation period, one cycle only. So it's not a idda as in death or in divorce. And if he wants, the child would be named by his name. If he doesn't want, no problem about that. What is this? This is actually not this is how this is actually in the book of the Shia. This is what the Shia say. Now the Shia, this is their condition. These are their conditions. Now, after the days of the Sahaba, all Muslim scholars agree that mut'a is haram, except the Imami Shia. It's said that Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu did used to say it's haram. Ali radiallahu anhu was so upset when he heard him saying that. And he told him, you are somebody who is lost to say this. And Ibn Zubayr was angry to hear that from him. So to say that it's said that Ibn Abbas is in the end of in the last days of his life stopped giving fatwa about this. But Ibn Abbas said, I didn't say that it's open forever. No, I didn't say that. But I said, if there is somebody in a place that there are only few women, and he's so squeezed that he needs to get married, and he doesn't have any type of marriage except this, no problem about it. But even though that is actually an unaccepted opinion, according to the majority of scholars, the only people who say that permissible until today are the Imami Shia. Even the Zaydis say it's haram, and they have a lot of fatawa, and they refer it to Imams of Al-Bayt, which these Imamis claim that they give permission to mut'ah. So actually, what the Imami Shia say is totally wrong, and even the Imams of Al-Bayt don't say that, according to the Zaydis. They have some. They have some evidence about that. They say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the verse 24 of Surah An-Nisa, فَمَا اسْتَمْتَعْتُمْ بِهِ مِنْهُنَّ فَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ فَرِيضًا. And the ones that you enjoyed them, enjoyed them, So give them their doubt, their he says ujurahun, that means their payments as obligatory. This they say that this means that the muta is permissible because he says stamta'tum, you got enjoyed with them. And there are narrations according to them that it says that it's permissible, and they say Ibn Abbas says it's permissible, but the majority of scholars have their strong evidence. Firstly, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُم. The ones that preserve their private parts, except on their wives or their slaves, their women slaves. This means that it's not permissible to have a muta marriage, as Ibn Abbas says. And the 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 here the ruling here, the rule here is that you are not allowed to enjoy sexually anything or any human being except your wife or your slave, woman slave, which doesn't exist now. So you only have your wife, and therefore uh, the marriage has to be forever, not for some time. Okay, this evidence is not so strong to say. They could say, well, we say she's a wife until she finishes her time. Number two, all these narrations that I just read right now, and it's so clear that mut'a was permissible for some time, and then it became unified. Number three, all scholars after Ibn Abbas agree that it's haram. So no one says it's permissible anymore. Now they say that what the verse that they claim doesn't have anything to do with this type of marriage. It speaks about marrying a woman and enjoying your life with her, and then you divorce her. You have to, or even you don't divorce her, you have to give her a dowry. So this doesn't have anything to do with the mutai that they're speaking about. Because anyone who marries a woman, he enjoys her. He enjoys the life with her. And she enjoys him as well. Okay? So therefore, this doesn't have anything to do with this. Number two, all narrations that give permission to mutai are abrogated. So you can't take an evidence abrogated. Okay? So therefore, those narrations are against them, not with them. Ibn Abbas radiallahu is one. And the majority of scholars were against them, especially Ali, that they claim that he's their imam. Ali radiallahu didn't agree about it. How can you say that Ibn Abbas said so and so? Okay? Well, therefore, when we go back to these narrations, we will see what it was permissible for some time, and then it became forbidden. Was it permissible, then forbidden, then permissible, then forbidden twice? Allahu A'lam, some say that. Some say no. The hadith was speaking about uh, several things. So someone, when he heard it, he thought that the mut'ah became haram in Khaybar. He was speaking about the domestic flesh, donkey flesh, not the mut'ah. Okay? So therefore, the mut'ah was forbidden in Awtas, after Awtas. Wallahu tabaraka wa ta'ala. Anyway, it's forbidden. Now, all the rulings of marriage shows that marriage has to be forever, not for some time. Okay? So you're not allowed to give it for some time and then nullify it or finish it. Now, okay. Now this condition, it 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 conflicts with all of the Islamic meanings of marriage. Islamic meanings of marriage makes marriage melts between two person, a woman and a man. They melt with each other and they become one entity. And he inherits her and she inherits him. They start having the same children. They start having. He's responsible to give her payments, and when he divorces her, she stays for some time. And if he passes away, she stays. She waits for 4 months and 10 days. If he divorces her, she stays for 3 menstruation periods. All these are conditions that don't exist in this type of marriage. That's why Ali radiallahu says that Ramadan abrogated all obligatory fastings and al-mut'ah uh, and uh, and he says that mut'ah was abrogated by divorce, iddah, and heritage. So there's another hadith by Ibn Abbas by the Prophet by Abu Hurairah Ibn Hibban. He says that mut'ah was destroyed by marriage, divorce, and inheritance. Ja'far al-Sadiq anhu was asked about mut'ah. He said it's the fornication itself. And this is so clear that no one is allowed to claim that this is permissible and go and practice this type of marriage. Okay, let me stop a little bit here if you have any questions and then carry on, okay?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Um, I,
Walaikum
I had
assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I had a question from the hadith that we started with in the beginning, where two men cannot exchange their daughters without dowry, and we talked about how the majority of the scholars said this is nullified, this is forbidden, and then for the Hanafis, we learned that, but as long as they're giving dowry, it's permissible. So the other scholars, they will not even accept this kind of an agreement of marriage if there is a dowry, because this happens in the Indo-Pak culture a lot, where two brothers and sisters are getting married, two fathers are getting married, dowry is arranged. So do the other schools not recognize the exchange of relations like this if the dowry condition has been fulfilled?
Okay, wait a second here. You say that in your culture that this happens?
It happens a lot of times, I've seen that two brothers will marry two sisters, or a father will marry his daughter off and have the brother marry the daughter, or some, like things like that. But there,
No, they make it as a condition? I'll marry her and you marry mine,
yes,
and
but
no dowry between them.
there is dowry between them. So I
There
know.
is dowry.
So what about the other scholars? Do they say it's null and void only when there's no dowry? And like you said, the word, it's an empty thing. There's no exchange of dowry. Is that what they're against, or they're against the setting of condition as well? Of, multiple marriage, I'll exchange you with this and
Mm-mm-mm.
then,
I
because
got your
if you
question.
do that, the, the risk in that is they're doing that and the men are agreeing. The dowry might be not considerable or what's maroof, because the men are agreeing, and the whole concept of dowry is the well-being of the woman and her right and what is recognized, right? So is that the reason why the other scholars don't like this condition?
Okay, look, now the first or the main uh, picture or the main case of shigar is that I'll tell you, marry my daughter, and you tell me, okay, and I marry your daughter, okay? No, my son would marry your daughter, and your son would marry my daughter, or something like that. And this is the condition. So they make it as a condition. If
Okay.
so and so happens, this would happen. Okay. But the hadith or the hadith in its explanation says that um, there is no dowry between them. Okay.
Okay.
If in case that there is a dowry between them. Now, the first case, as I told you here, it's actually nullified if there's no dowry. Okay.
Right.
Now, the Hanbalis say if they don't mention the dowry, or they say that the dowry is only the marriage, So my daughter is the dower of your son, and
Right.
your son is the dower of my daughter. You get the idea. So there's actually no dowry. This
Right.
is according of all of them. It's haram. It's not. It's nullified. It's not accepted. Okay. Now, now, in case if there is a dowry, there is a dowry, and even though the Hanbalis say no, it's not accepted. The
Mm.
Hanbalis, which means that maybe the others would say if there is a specific money, it's accepted. Now, if we say that there is a specific dowry and there is now they say, for example, the Malikis have this type. They say, "I'll give you. I want to marry your daughter by 100 bucks, for example, and you marry my daughter with the same." They say, "No, this is not accepted." So according to the other imams, even if they mention a specific dowry, it's not accepted according to them. But look, I think that in your culture, they are Hanafis, okay? So according to them, they're they're going according to the Hanafi school. The Hanafi school, it says that if there is a dowry, there's no problem because the idea is having it empty. Then it's not empty here, okay?
So, Sheikh, can we, in conclusion, between the last class and this class, say, yes, this is all jurisprudence. We are learning about what the scholars are saying. But what Quran and Hadith is teaching us, that when we are talking about wali or when we are talking about dowry, wali is not just about your father or someone being in charge of you. It's about someone who's protecting you at the
Yes,
time
of course.
and after the marriage and after the conflicts come in, which is why that was a purpose to benefit the woman in protecting her. Dowry, again, is the same thing. All of these loopholes that people find are wrong. So when you're listening and you're figuring things out, you need to be just. So if you're setting fair dowries, even if you're not paying attention to all of this, you're fulfilling the conditions of Allah without knowing all of these rulings of the scholars. But the purpose you understand. The purpose is avoiding injustice, and the purpose is maintaining relations. Because every hadith you went over, why can't you not marry her paternal aunt or uncle? Because Allah wants relations to be joined. He doesn't want
Yes, of course.
societies to be disrupted. Everything boils down to that, regardless of what scholars are saying. It's so logical. So,
Now, actually, look, scholars say that this exchange is wrong. It's wrong itself. So never make these exchanges, even if there is a dowry. The exchange itself is wrong. But
because
is it nullified if there is a dowry? I think that if there is a dowry, it's not nullified, but it's something wrong. You're not supposed to do that.
and the reason for that, not just because of the amount and how you are making the deal, is because sometimes you're forcing your decision on the people involved, which again creates problems as you go forward. Because I've seen that you made this agreement, and the parties or the young people getting married by the adults or the walis that they set it are not really happy with that arrangement, and they don't have a choice because, in order to
They
get
don't be happy with it, right?
happy with it. So, which is
Yeah. See.
the other question, Sheikh, I had. You kept saying, slavery is not in, it doesn't apply, but there is a lot of human trafficking in the West and in Middle East and other areas where people are kidnapped. Still, the women are abducted, or after wars and stuff, and they're taken and they're misused. Would that would not count as slavery? That's something totally different. And sometimes, you're abducted and you're sold in the market. Even to this day, it happens that you are auctioned, you are sold in the really wrong places for women and for men and for boys and girls. So
Yeah, they
how
call them the white slavery.
how do any of do those, how slavery and human trafficking happens today, that's different from slavery and what happened before, because your will is taken, you are sold, you're removed from your family. So what in that case, for the person who wants to get married, he found someone or she found someone, and the other person is Muslim, and it's a way out, because according to the hadith we studied, it's nullified, because someone who's already exploiting will never allow you. to get out of their situation. So how do you see those
If a
situations?
Muslim is put in this situation, a Muslim would never be a slave for a non-Muslim. We're speaking about a Muslim who's a slave to a Muslim, not to a non-Muslim.
But
If
Sheikh,
he's a
even
slave to a non-Muslim, he has to see how to escape from him,
so,
not to be.
even say, for example, with the situation that happens in war-torn areas where the women, children are abducted and exploited and taken and sold, and maybe the people exploiting could also be Muslims or non-Muslims. Allah knows best. But what I'm saying is, how do the conditions or the situations of slavery apply to those people? Because in the world it seems like there's no slavery, but in the real world, even in North America, there are so many abductions, so many young children, and there, within the system there's a lot of trafficking. Human trafficking is very real. Work trafficking is very real. It's not a gone issue. It's just not as open as it used to be before. So how do you
Yeah,
understand?
but look, the case is that it's not recognized in any rule, any country. You can't say, well, I'm the slave of so and so, and they accept it. No, no one would accept that. And
Okay,
therefore, if it goes to the court, it'll be nullified.
okay.
And
So that
they would be
talking
sentenced
about
for
legal
I don't
slaves.
huh?
That so basically, what I understand is what you're saying is legally accepted slaves.
Yeah, it's not legally
Well,
accepted. So therefore, in the ancient days, it was legally accepted in the whole world. They say that guy's a slave, and the laws accept that. But nowadays, no law in any country accepts that. Maybe people do some traffic, something like that, but it's not accepted in any country.
it's a criminal act anywhere, so that's why.
Yes, it's a criminal act, exactly.
Okay, that's love and
Okay, any other questions? Okay, here are some questions. Lubna, what do Imam Ahmad, Malik, and Shafi'i say about uh, proposal or marriage while in ihram? They say it's haram and it's not accepted at all. Hanafis are the only ones that say it's accepted. Many sisters are Hanbali only when it comes to marriage nowadays. They love the shurut about only having one wife and other conditions. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Alhamdulillah, I was Hanbali in this Masail law. Okay, there's no other question. Okay, let's carry on. Now, look here. If somebody gets married, no, if somebody divorces his wife thrice, can we say thrice? Yahya, can we say thrice?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So if he divorces his wife thrice, three times, and she's not his wife anymore, and he can't marry her anymore unless she goes and marries somebody and he intercourses her and he passes away or divorces her, and therefore she can come back to her husband. So so and so divorced his wife three times, and he loves her. He made a mistake. He didn't have to divorce her three times. So he felt so he felt that he has to do something, and he regrets. And he went to the shuyukh, and no one of them wanted to reply to him. So what does he say? He says, "Okay, I'm going to go to my friend and tell him to marry that woman, and then after free few time, he would divorce her, and I'll go and marry her again." Is this permissible? Of course, it's not permissible for two reasons. And I'll tell you. Okay, now we're going to speak about this. This is the case actually. But before this, I would like to tell you some stories here. There was a scholar called. He was in Yemen, a great scholar in Hadramaut, and I forgot his name right now. And in Yemen, they have a shrine that they claim it's for Sayyidina Hud alayhi salam. Hud alayhi salam. So this guy divorced his wife three times. No, not three times. He divorced her 100 times. He said, "You're divorced from me 100 times." And then he regrets. So they told him, go and ask the shuyukh. All the shuyukh tell him no. One of them told him, okay, I'll take care of 97, 97 divorces, and the three remain divorces, search for somebody to take care of them. Of course, he's making a joke of him because divorce is only three times. More than that is nothing. It's not even considered. So these guys went to this sheikh. I think his name is Ibn Ubaidillah Saggaf. Ibn Ubaidillah. When he went to this sheikh is a very smart guy and he knows his environment. He said to the wife, "Hey, woman, who is your Lord?" She says, "Well, I don't know. I don't know." He says, "Who's your prophet?" "Well, I don't know. I know." She's a Bedouin woman. Says, "You don't know your Lord. You don't know your prophet." Good. "Hey, you guy, who's your Lord?" He says, "Allah, la ilaha illallah." He says, "Who's your prophet?" He says, "Hud alayhi salam. Hud alayhi salam." He says, Hud alayhi salam is your prophet. He said, "Come, both of you come to me. Say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Go and take your wife. Go home now. You're Muslim. You weren't even Muslim. Both of you weren't Muslim. So there's no divorce, no nothing at all." So subhanallah al-azim, this sheikh was smart and he understood his environment and he solved this problem in this way. Did you get the idea?
I I do because we've talked about this and other things. But yeah, I hope everybody else did.
Okay, now let me tell you now this hadith. عن ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه قال لعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم المحل والمحلل له. رواه أحمد والنسائي والترمذي وصححه وفي الباب عن علي وأخرجه الأربعة إلا النسائي. Okay. Narrated Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger cursed the man who made a woman lawful for her first husband and the one for whom she was made lawful, the men involved in halal, reported by Ahmad and Nasa'i and the Tirmidhi. The later declared it to be sahih, authentic. Al-Arba'a accepted Nasa'i reported something related to this matter on the authority of Ali radiallahu anhu. This hadith means that this tahleel, what does tahleel mean? It was haram and he's going to make it halal. So it's forbidden and he is going to make it legitimate. Okay? He says that the Prophet cursed the one who does this. Okay, that this means that this act is haram. It's not permissible. So this means anyone who takes this guy and asks him to do this action, he is cursed and the guy is cursed as well. Okay? So both of them are cursed. Now, what do the Imams say about this? Malikis, Hanbalis, and Abu Hanifa, only his student Muhammad bin Hassan, say that this marriage is haram and it's nullified. So it's not accepted. And the woman would not be legitimate for her husband, even if this actually happens, if this happens. No matter. This was by a condition when they make their contract, or it was attention in his heart, even if he didn't speak about that. He says in his heart, I'm gonna marry her just to make her legitimate for her husband. Or he says, I'll make her legitimate for her husband, but if I love her, I like her, I'll remain with her. That's only in his heart. He didn't say that. I mean, so anything that has to do with making this by intention, it's wrong. Okay, this is according to Malikis and Hanbalis. Both of them say that this is not accepted, and they say that the hadith is are. And they have there's another hadith that the Prophet ﷺ considers the guy that makes this like a male goat, a goat that you borrow it to make this action. Imagine he's a goat. Hanafis and Shafi'is say if he marries her by a condition to divorce her so that she would be legitimate for her first husband, that is a sin. He made a sin. And the condition is nullified and the contract is accepted. Okay? Now, if he makes that in his heart, but he doesn't say it with his tongue, Hanafis say that's fine. That's a good thing to do it. He didn't make anything wrong. Shafi'is say it's unpreferable, but it's fine. So both of them, according to both of them, she would be legitimate for her husband. So therefore, we have two schools: Maliki, Hanbali, haram, nullified, not accepted, and both of them are cursed. Hanafi, Shafi'i, no problem about that, except they can say it's unpreferable if they put it in their heart. But if they don't say that, if they don't speak about that, it's there's no problem about that. And some of them even say it's a good thing to do because he's solving a problem of his brother. Okay. But what do they say about this hadith? They say, well, that's if he makes it as a condition. If he makes it as a condition and he carries on doing that. But if he doesn't make it as a condition and he just leaves it in his heart, there's no problem about that. Okay. this is the case. So, now look here. There is a very important chapter here that we see in several societies. Are all people the same, or every specific people have to marry only from their area and their people? And if they don't marry from them, you can nullify the whole contract. This is a big issue that scholars spoke about. عن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينكح الزاني المجلود الا مثله رواه احمد وابو داود ورجاله ثقات صححه الحاكم. Okay. Narrated Abu Hurairah Messenger said, a man guilty of fornication who has been flogged for it should not marry any but a woman like him, similarly guilty, reported by Ahmad and Abu Dawood. And its narrators are reliable. Okay. Now this means that if somebody was guilty of fornication and he was flogged 100 lashes and he wants to get married to any woman, it says he's not supposed to marry except a woman like him. Not go marry a good woman or a religious woman or whatever. So, does this mean that he's not allowed to marry any other woman, or what? And if he does that, is it it's not accepted, or what? Somebody say, if this guy who fornicated, this fornicator, is he allowed to marry the same woman that he fornicated with after she purifies her womb? They said, Hanbali say, he can marry her or marry any other woman, and that is by two conditions. The first condition, she has to finish her periods. She has to purify her condition from his nasty relationship, and both of them have to repent from fornicating, because repentance destroys any sin before it. In this case, she would be legitimate for him. He would be, he would, it would be permissible for both of them to get married. This hadith is their evidence, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah An-Nur, verse number 3, الزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية أو مشركة والزانية لا ينكح إلا زاني أو مشرك وحرم ذلك على المؤمنين. The fornicator doesn't marry except a fornicating woman or a polytheist woman, and a fornicator woman is not allowed to be married to unless to a fornicator or somebody who is uh, a polytheist, idolater. Idolater. Is that how we pronounce it, Yahya?
Idolater.
Idolater?
Yes.
Idolater.
Idolater.
Yeah, sorry. So now the majority of scholars say that this marriage is considered valid, no problem about it. Fornicator can marry any woman, even the woman that he fornicated with, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, and it's after these women you can marry whoever you want. When he mentioned the woman that you're not allowed to marry, he said, and he can marry any other woman after. What about this verse and this hadith? Well, it says that he mean the hadith, the verse and the hadith mean that somebody like this guy who still didn't repent or what, normally he has to marry a woman who was like him, but it doesn't mean it's not legitimate or it's not accepted. Okay, this is the idea. Yeah. Now the thing that I wanted to speak about, he had a full chapter about it. We're going to mention that later, inshallah. Let us just read the last hadith here, and then we'll go to the new chapter. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت: طلق رجل امرأته ثلاثا فتزوجها رجل ثم طلقها قبل أن يدخل بها فأراد زوجها الأول أن يتزوجها فسأل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ذلك فقال: لا حتى يذوق الآخر منهن حسيلتها ما ذاق الأول متفق عليه. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, a man divorced his wife by 3 pronouncements, and another man married her and divorced her before cohabiting with her. And then her first husband intended to marry her and asked Allah's Messenger about that. He said no until the other one, second husband, has enjoyed sexual intercourse with her as the first husband had. Agreed upon the wording is Muslims. Now, the hadith, I'll give you the exact words of the hadith because the translation is not exact. He said no until he tastes, until the second one tastes from her honey as the first one tasted. So he called it honey. Okay? Enjoyment, sexual enjoyment, he called it honey. Tasting honey. This is how he mentioned this. Okay, what does this hadith mean? This hadith means that if somebody divorces his wife 3 times and he wants to marry her again, she is not allowed to get married unless she marries another man and he intercourses her. This is very important. He has to intercourse her. And then he divorces her without any other intention, just divorces her, or he passes away, he dies. In this case, she's allowed to go back to her first husband. And this is so clear in the Quran. Okay? So this means that the second husband has to intercourse her. In case that he didn't intercourse her, that doesn't make her legitimate for her first husband. Okay? So be aware of this. Now here we finished the chapter of marriage and its merits and conditions. We finished this. Now we are going to enter to a new chapter, which is al-kafa'atu wal-khiyar. It means equality in marriage and right of choice. Please, if you have any questions, I'll be happy.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna.
Walaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
What if there's a woman that has a medical condition and she cannot have intercourse? So she marries her first husband and then they divorce 3 times and then she marries a new husband, but he cannot have intercourse with her, but she wants to go back to the first husband and the first husband wants her back.
The second husband didn't intercourse her?
Neither one did because let's say she has a problem, a medical problem, and she can never have intercourse.
And the first one divorced her thrice?
Yes.
Problem, she can't go back to her first husband. Because her first husband is her husband by contract, not by intercourse. Now the second one could not make her legitimate for the first one until he intercourses her. If he doesn't intercourse her, she would not be legitimate for her first. Why does the first one want to marry her again? They're just imagining, you mean?
No, there are situations like this. There are women that they have physical problems, but maybe he just enjoys her companionship, for example. He just likes to be around her, but for whatever reason, she can't have intercourse.
Therefore, she can't go back to her first husband.
Barakallahu fikum, Shaykhna.
Fikum barakallah. Type. As long as there's no other question, we'll carry on. Tasting honey mean other than intercourse? No, it means intercourse. That's all scholars say that.
Another quick question, Sheikh.
Yeah.
So one of the big issues that we have here in America is about this question of zina before marriage. Because a lot of brothers want to marry a sister that has never done zina, and a lot of sisters want to marry a brother that has never done zina.
Yeah.
So there's some ulama that say that the person should hide their sin, and if they did zina, then they shouldn't tell the other person, and they should just get married like that.
Yeah.
But there's also a fatwa from some of the Hanafi Deobandi ulama that say that she shouldn't deceive or the husband shouldn't deceive. So when two people are talking and they say, I want to marry someone that has never done zina, they shouldn't be dishonest. They should just find some way to exit the situation. Because what happens a lot of times, the people will get married, then the husband will find out his wife did zina, or the wife will find out the husband did zina, and then now they want a divorce because they feel tricked. So is it allowed to ask in an indirect way? And should the person be honest, or should they try to hide it?
Actually, they're not supposed to ask. لا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤ. Don't ask about things that if you know the answer, you won't be happy. This is what the Quran says. So therefore, we know that this situation in the West is like this. And as long as you married a woman that is now religious and she married a man that is religious, why should you go and ask? Why should you ask about something that you won't be happy when you find it?
The reason
So
why a lot of
therefore,
times people want to ask is because sometimes these sisters, yes, they become religious, but it affects their ability to have a healthy relationship because they had maybe 10, 15 relationships before. So then when they get married, they can't have a close relationship with the husband, or even they think they're religious, but because of their past experience, or even the husband, then they find themselves they want to do zina again.
oh my God.
Oh my
Well,
God.
he can search, look, he can search and ask without asking her. Don't ask. He can ask her friends, he can ask her environment. And when they might tell him, well, she had her time before and then she became religious. What else? And she's gonna more usually they don't care about the men, they care only about the girls, the women. But anyway, this thing can't be hidden actually. The fornicating of women, it can't be hidden like the fornicating of men. Anyway, may Allah help us. Usually, you're not supposed to manifest your sins and tell it to people, and therefore, you're not supposed to tell people what you did. You can just, in general, say, "Well, let us just open a new book." That's it, without telling any details. Not supposed to tell details. نسأل الله أن يستر عيوبنا.
I mean,
Okay, باب الكفاءة والخيار. Equality in marriage and right of choice. This chapter is very important. And subhanAllah, in some countries, this causes people a lot of problems, especially in the Shafi'i environments. And I'm going to show you why. Sometimes even Shafi'i and Hanbali as well. عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم العرب بعضهم أكفاء بعض والموالي بعضهم أكفاء بعض إلا حائكا أو حجاما. رواه الحاكم في إسناده راوي لم يسمى واستنكره أبو حاتم ولو شاهد عن البزار عند البزار عن معاذ بن جبل بسند منقطع. This hadith is not authentic. This hadith, and it has several narrations and chains. Well, that's all. So therefore, this hadith narrated Ibn Umar, Allah's Messenger said, the Arabs are equal to one another. And the Mawali, who are not Arabs, are equal to one another, except a weaver or a cupper. Because in that era, they used to humiliate a weaver and a cupper. They consider this something low. It's only for low people to work that. Reported by Hakim, but there is a nameless narrator in its chain of narrators. Abu Hatim ibn Hibban graded its munkar, rejected. It has a supporting narration reported by al-Bazzar from Mu'adh ibn Jabal with a munqata, broken chain. Okay? Okay. what do we get from this hadith? Well, this hadith means that between Arabs, all of them are equal to each other. And non-Arabs, all of them are equal to each other. And it says that these types of jobs, which is weaver and cupper, are low jobs. It's like working in picking garbage or all these types of works that people don't consider it a high type of work. Now, are people all equal to each other? And you can give your daughter to anyone. Actually, look, equality here is not for men. Equality is for women. Any woman is equal for a man. I can marry whoever I want. Which means I'm a man. I can marry any type of woman, wherever she is. But a noble woman, is she allowed to marry any man she wants? Or if she marries somebody from a low type of environment, she would get, her family would be discussed from that. Let me just speak as like what happens nowadays. So therefore, Arabs between each other, according to this hadith, which is not authentic, according to this hadith, Arabs all are equal to each other. And non-Arabs are all equal to each other, except if somebody's working as a weaver or a cupper, they're not equal. This hadith, according to them, the very strange thing is this hadith is a hadith that the Hanafis accept. The Hanafis accept this hadith. And they see that this hadith is a good hadith, sound hadith. They say, look, Kamal Din ibn al-Humam, which is a great Hanafi Imam, he said all these narrations have a lots of chains and they support each other, so all of them raise this hadith to an accepted hadith. Now, all scholars, or majority of scholars, say that equality is important in marriage. But what is equality here? These narrations here say that equality is by the family name. And therefore, equality can be by family name and by the race and by the job or work, according to this. And I'm going to mention now the names of the scholars and schools, what do they say, and what is the most accepted opinion. Now, Hadith Fatima bint Qais radiallahu anha, that the Prophet ﷺ said, عن فاطمة بنت قيس رضي الله عنها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال انكحي أسامة رواه مسلم. Fatima, daughter of Qais, the Prophet ﷺ told her, marry Usama. Now, who was Usama? Usama ibn Zayd, it's a hadith in Muslim. Usama is son of Zayd ibn Haritha, who was a slave. The Prophet ﷺ's slave, and he adopted him and freed him. So he's a free slave. And Usama was black. He's not African, but his mother is African. He's an Arab, but his mother is African. She is Ayman, radiallahu anha. So the Prophet ﷺ married Usama to Ayman, and he married Zayd ibn Haritha to Ayman. So she bore Usama. The Prophet ﷺ used to love Usama a lot. And he used to call the Sahaba used to call him the beloved son of the beloved. But he's so black. And Fatima bint Qais was from Quraysh. She was a Qurayshi woman, a noble woman, very knowledgeable. very beautiful. She was white, Snow White. Okay. So when he told her to marry Usama, she said, Usama, Usama. He told her this is the order of the Prophet. Allah and his Prophet. This is okay, no problem. She said, when I married her, I was so happy with him because he was a good guy. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال يا بني بياضة أنكحوا أبا هند وانكحوا إليه وكان حجاما. رواه أبو داود وابن حبان والحاكم بسند جيد. وعن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت خيرت بريرة على زوجها حين عتقت. متفق عليه في حديث طويل. ولمسلم عنها أن زوجها كان عبدا. وفي رواية عنها كان حرة والأول أثبت وصحب عن ابن عباس. Okay. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, the Prophet said, O sons of Bayada, it's a tribe of Ansar, marry to Abu Hind, someone of your women, and marry from his woman, his daughters, even though he was a cupper. Abu Dawud and al-Hakim reported it with Hassan, good chain of narrators. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, Barira, who was her servant, was given her choice regarding her husband to remain with him or separate when she was freed, agreed upon, because Aisha freed her. So when she freed her, she decided to divorce from her husband or separate from her husband when she was freed. Agreed upon. It was part of a long hadith. The long hadith is a long story. It's an emotional story. I don't want to tell you the story right. Maybe later. Muslim has from Aisha radiallahu, her husband was a slave. Another narration from her as he was a free man. The first narration is more well established. It has been authentically reported from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu by al-Bukhari that he was a slave. Okay. Okay, now pay attention to me. Pay attention to what I'm going to say. Now, this hadith of Usama marrying this noble Qurashi woman, Fatima bint Qais, means that if any Muslim, no matter what is his race, what is his color, what is his nation, as long as he's a righteous person, he has the right to marry any woman from any race, from any culture. So there isn't this making separating Muslims that this guy is better than this guy, and you are allowed to marry this from this tribe. You're not allowed to marry this tribe. Okay, according to this hadith. Okay. So therefore, Fatima bint Qais, she's from Quraysh. She's from Muhajirun. And she was a very handsome and beautiful woman. She's white and she was young, and Usama ibn Zayd was a servant, son of a servant. Actually, he wasn't a servant, but his father was a servant. Although he was an Arab, yeah, but he was a servant anyway. And then the Prophet freed him. So the Prophet didn't pay attention to all these meanings, and he told her to marry. And when the Prophet orders something like that, that means he wanted to destroy a mentality that had been centuries in the mind of people. Okay? And therefore, she was so happy when she married Usama. Okay? The second hadith, Banu Bayada, the Prophet told them, so they were from Ansar, and they're Arabs, of course, and they told them to help Abu Hind to get married from them and to marry his daughters. Although he might not be an Arab, and he is only maybe a slave or a free slave, and his job wasn't low. I mean, he's just a cupper. Okay? Therefore, the Prophet didn't pay attention to all these meanings. All this means that the previous hadith is not authentic, actually. Now look at this hadith. Barira. Barira now was a servant, a slave. And then when she got free, she decided to get free from her husband as well. Her husband, poor guy, his name is I used to know his name. He came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining, and he told him, please talk to her. He used to love her. Wait a second, I'll get his name now. So she decided to get rid of him. Maybe she humiliated him.
Al-Mughith.
Or huh?
Al-Mughith. You're looking for Barira's husband, right?
Mughith, yeah. Mughith, yeah. Her husband was Mughith. So the Prophet ﷺ used to see him following her and sharing tears on his beard, crying, poor guy, he wants her back. She doesn't want him. She doesn't pay attention to him. The Prophet ﷺ told her, why don't you go back to Mughith? She said to him, is it an order or you're just interceding between us? He said, no, I'm just telling you if it'll be better. I mean, she said, I don't like him. I don't want to go back to him. That's it. So as long as it's not an order, she didn't want to go back to him. So the Prophet ﷺ was so sorry for Mughith, but he couldn't do anything to him. And he said to Aisha, don't you see how Mughith loves Barira and Barira doesn't love him? She doesn't even pay attention to him. And Barira was a free servant of Aisha radiallahu anha. Well, this means that a woman who is free is not equal to a slave. Okay? And this means that a woman, if she gets free, she's allowed to get free from her husband. If he's still a slave, she has the right to do that. Now, the Quran always insists that equality is by religion, and it's the main condition in any marriage. That's why a woman is not allowed to marry a non-Muslim man, no matter who he is. If he's kafir, she's not allowed to marry him. And therefore, the majority of scholars say that equality is in four things: in religion, in being free, slavery and freedom, in lineage of family, in the jobs and works. Hanafis and Hanbalis add in in the wealth. Okay? If both of them are close to each other, in wealth, they are equal to each other. And they have a lot of narrations about that. But most of that is weak. Most of what they mentioned. The Imam Malik says that the main equality is in religion. So a Muslim woman is not equal to a non-Muslim man. A Muslim woman who is religious is not equal to a rebellious man. For example, he drinks, he smokes, he doesn't care about religion. She's not equal to him. So she has the right to not marry him, and he's not supposed to marry her. Okay? And another thing is equality in any shortage. For example, he doesn't have an eye, or he's blind, or he's cut, or any of these things that we're going to mention later on. There are some sexual problematic problems, that if she finds that she has the right to nullify the whole marriage. Okay? Therefore, the Maliki point of view is the most strongest point of view because of the narration of Fatima bint Qais. She got married to Usama. He's black, he's originally a servant, etc. So the Prophet didn't pay attention to all these meetings. He just said Usama is a great guy, he's a real Muslim, and he deserves to get married to Fatima bint Qais. And he's the best husband to her. Even in the age I think Fatima was older than Osama. I think she was older than him a lot. And even Osama's father, Zayd ibn Haritha, his wife, Ayman, was older because she was the babysitter of the Prophet ﷺ. So, and she had a previous husband who was the father of Ayman, her husband, Ayman, her son, Ayman. This means that she was older than even her husband, Zayd ibn Haritha. You see? So, and there are many stories like this. Like Aisha radiallahu anha, she married Salim, the servant of Abu Hudayfa. Abu Hudayfa is son of Utbah ibn Abi ibn Rabi'a. He's from Bani Abd Shams, the greatest. I mean, his sister is Hind. Her husband is Abu Sufyan, the greatest lineage of Quraysh. And his servants, Salim, was married to his niece, Hind bint al-Walid ibn Utbah. He didn't say, well, she's a noble woman from the best branch of Quraysh. How is she going to get married to Salim, his son, servant, who his name is not known even? They just call him Salim Mawla Abi Hudayfa. They don't know who his father was. He's a great guy, by the way. Salim Mawla Abi Hudayfa is a great guy. And he was from the few Sahaba that memorized the whole Quran, and he passed away in the battles of the apostators. And Abu Hudayfa was one of the great Muslims who converted to Islam in the beginning of Islam, where his father was the leader of Quraysh. He was the great enemy of Islam, actually. He was killed in Badr. There are several stories here that Aisha radiallahu anha married many, and there are many women from Quraysh that married people who aren't from Quraysh and not from the same lineage, which means that the point of the Maliki point of view here, the Madini point of view, it's the most accepted point of view according to the narrations that we have. Okay. Now, what do the Hanafis, Shafi? By the way, Imam Abu Hanifa is Persian, but even though he insists on this opinion, Hanafis, Shafi'is, Hanbalis, these are the ones who, and when they have a lot of problems about this. I know this in Yemen, in Arabia, they have lots of problems about this issue of family names. So therefore, they start giving excuses about these narrations that we mentioned. But no, I can't tell you all this is. It's not didn't come to. But let me just tell you, to be honest with you guys, just to be honest with you. Now, when we're speaking about this, according to the Islamic point of view, we don't forget that when you marry someone from your same stage or mentality or environment or all these types of things, that makes the life stable. It's not only from another country, it's in the same country. If you don't marry from the same environments, you would have a lot of problems. Now, let me give you an example. You might marry a woman who is so religious and very good, and when you get it from another environment to your family, most of the family would humiliate her, don't pay attention to her, and you're going to have a lot of problems there. She might marry a guy who was fantastic, very good, but when she gets into her house and he meets her family, they won't pay attention to him. They will humiliate him. So why should you get something from another environment and cause lots of problems? This is the idea. But if they don't have this issue and you don't have this problem, that's it. That's fantastic. Sometimes there are some environments. If you marry a woman who is illiterate and never studied, that would cause you a lot of problems. because they will consider her as an ignorant woman, and they will humiliate her. That's it. Vice versa. If she marries, and I know one of my students married a sister that is one of my students as well. And I wasn't, I was abroad. And then when I came home, I heard that so and so married. So I said, no, why did he do that? I won't advise him to do that. Why? She has a post, she works good, and she's proud of herself, she has a good salary, etc. But what did he used to? He used to go teaching people Quran in their houses and they pay him. So her family humiliated him and they didn't even pay attention to him. They considered him as a low guy. This is how they treated him. And she used to go to her job and he goes searching for houses to teach. And, so her mother kept on insisting until he got divorced from her. He had a child with her. And then until now, but actually, I tried to combine between them, but I couldn't because her brothers were so stubborn that they didn't even accept me. What happened later? Actually, she's the one who lost everything because he married after a woman and he became an imam in a big masjid that he became giving the Jumu'ah khutbah and he became giving lots of lectures and stuff like that. He changed, of course. Situation changed, and now he's happy with his. And actually, I'm his teacher, and he's my teacher. He teaches me Quran, and I teach him other things. So, and the poor other one stayed in their house never got married again, and she regret. But sometimes when you regret, you don't do anything. So sorry. This is the case actually. But she didn't have to marry from an environment that is not the same of her environment. It's not because of the race. It's not because of the color. It's not because of the job. It's actually change of societies and stuff like that. Okay, this is very important to speak about. And this is what I can say here. Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi وجزاكم الله خيرا. Leave it here, inshallah. Let us meet next week, بإذن ta'ala. We have it here in US among all of the ethnic groups. Yeah, so sorry. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.